Everyone knows in Dragon Ball Fighters, it's all about punching each other in the face, being as violent as possible. However, you'll notice that not every character's buttons go full screen. Some of them go pretty far, but from long ranges, it's very hard to make contact with your opponent with anything from back here. And so what do you do? What do you do when you're far away from your opponent and you still want to play the neutral game? That brings today's topic into play, the Ki Blast. Now, Ki Blasts come in very many shapes and sizes in Dragon Ball Fighters. So we'll just start from the very beginning. We'll start with the standard Ki Blast. The three characters you see on the left have what I would call standard Ki Blast. As you can see, I can rapid fire. Goku has 6. Vegeta has 8. And Team Gohan has 4. But not every character has the same amount of Ki Blasts. So this is important to know when you're playing matchups, because if you get into a situation where you're both Ki Blasting each other at the same time, one of you is going to win out on that interaction because they have more than the other. So keep that in mind. So these are standard Ki Blasts. As you can see, if both of us do a Ki Blast at the same time, it full clashes, no one gets hit, nothing happens. They just kind of cancel each other out and you go from there. And so they also have different speeds as well. So as you can see from point blank, 13 frames on SSJ Goku. It's also 13 frames for SSJ Vegeta. But characters like Team Gohan and characters like Frieza have faster startup on their Ki Blasts. You can see 11 frames for Frieza on the opponent's side. And so that's also something really important. Some of the best Ki Blasts in the game are so strong because they have very, very fast startup, which of course means they're going to reach full screen faster than other Ki Blasts as well. So that's also very important. So it's very important to know how many Ki Blasts your character has, and also their cancel options. Their cancel options out of Ki Blasts, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But next, what I want to go to is durability. So the characters on the left and also Frieza are what I would say have 1 durability projectiles. They are standard Ki Blasts. It's the lowest durability in the game. They clash with each other, everything's fine. However, there are characters in the game that have higher durabilities on their Ki Blasts. So we'll bring in Broly, and you guys have probably been in this situation before where you try to Ki Blast Broly, but his Ki Blast goes through your Ki Blast, because Broly has what we call 1.5 durability. It's not 2 durability, because 2 durability is what I like to call like beams, straight up beams, like Goku's beam, right? So as you can see, beam will beat this, but it beats every other Ki Blast. That's really important. And he also has rapid, so it is very difficult to win a Ki Blast war with Broly, nearly impossible. There are some other characters that have higher durability on Ki Blast. Goku Black does now. Majin 21 also has 1.5 durability. Trunks also is 1.5 durability, but his is a little different because his looks like a beam, but it's actually a 1.5 durability Ki Blast. But it also beats every other it also beats every other 1.5 durability. So for all intents and purposes, Trunks 5S is like a lower durability beam, more so than a higher durability Ki. It's pretty crazy. And then there's some characters that have things that look like beams, but they're not. So for example, UI Goku, right? When he 5S's, this looks like it would be beam property, but it's actually not. It's actually just standard durability. It full clashes with regular Ki Blasts. Pretty interesting. That's something really important in the UI matchup. Now he has things that, you know, he can walk through Ki Blasts and stuff, but for you know, the long range game, since he only has 1 5S that he can do, that leads to his long range neutral not being the greatest at all, since it full clashes with regular Ki Blasts. So that's interesting stuff. There are a lot of like durabilities that of course I can't spend time on in the interest of time, but there are a lot of different durabilities in this game, so make sure you check which durabilities your character has and what you can beat and what you can't beat, because it can be really relevant in some matchups. Okay, next property I want to talk about is piercing, and this is going to be really, really quick, me going over this. So most Ki Blasts in this game, when you shoot your opponent, you can see the explosion stops right on your opponent, right? Doesn't go any further. So the Ki Blast makes contact with your opponent, it blows up, and that is the end of the move. not every Ki Blast is like this, actually. So Frieza has the special durability of when you Ki Blast your opponent, it actually goes through them, through the back. So you can see it makes contact with Goku, and it still goes through him, right? You can see the Ki Blast going through the back of him. So this is what we call piercing. So, for example, if you call an assist, if you call an assist and you run forward against Frieza Ki Blast, the Ki Blast will go through your point character and hit your assists. Assuming the assist is not already put out like a, you know, an anti-projectile move like a beam or something like that. And so that is a property that I think very few characters have in this game. Frieza has it. I believe Goku Black 5S also has piercing property. And so like the matchups change a little bit with them because you can't get away with nearly as many assist calls against this character since it goes through. Frieza also has, you know, tied for the fastest Ki Blast startup in the game, along with Teen Gohan, Kefla, and Majin Buu. And so, like, his Ki Blasts are some of the best in the game. I would argue Frieza's Ki Blasts are, like, top 3 in the game. Because they pierce, they're extremely fast. He also has 6. And he also has, like, pretty solid cancel options out of his Ki Blasts as well. So, that's actually what we'll talk about next. So, when we talk about cancel properties, there's a lot of things to consider. So first of all, it's important to notice that no character in the game can truly jail out of Ki Blast. What do I mean by that? I mean, so you might go into training mode and you set it to guard first only, and you do Ki Blast into vanish, right? Most characters, right? You can see he blocked all of that, right? He blocked all of that, and you might be thinking, oh, that means it jails. It's actually not the case though. It's not a true jail, because in this game, when you Ki Blast your opponent, and this is any Ki Blast property move, it doesn't have to be a 5S or a 2, it doesn't, any Ki Blast property move, when it makes contact with your opponent's block, they can cancel their block stun into reflect or super dash, right? And so in this situation, I'll do the same thing. I'll do 5S into vanish. You can see Frieza's able to cancel the block stun of the Ki Blast into the reflect. Like, his reflect is already beginning because he can cancel that block stun immediately into the reflect, meaning that I can never actually do this jail if my opponent is aware. The same goes for super dash, and this is what reflects, this is what stops people from just kind of shooting you in neutral forever, right? Because you can cancel your block stun into super dash too to get in on those people that are doing rapid Ki Blast. And that this is kind of where cancel properties come into play. So first we'll talk about strings. So when you're doing a string on your opponent, it's important to notice that Ki Blasts can be used after your M buttons. You can actually do them after any buttons, but it has the special property of being lower on the cancel hierarchy than H buttons. So, for example, you can do LMH, right? You can do LMHS, right? And this is a fine string. You can also do LMSH, right? And this is important because, like I just said, your opponent can cancel their block stun into super dash. And so if they're guessing on your block string and they see a Ki Blast and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna super dash, you can have that H button ready. You can have a 2H ready as well, right? And so you can get huge damage off of your opponent just mindlessly trying to super dash through your strings. And this is a really big deal, so make sure you pay attention to that. And so because of the variability on Ki Blasts and where you can put them into your strings, it leads to your opponent not being able to just answer Ki Blast just outright. It's usually way more complicated. You can also cancel into your special moves as usual. I can do Ki Blast into, you know, 214L. I can do it into any special move, and also this happens to apply on when your opponent super dashes through your Ki Blast, right? And so this is really important. Characters like Vegeta, right? If he's Ki Blasting his opponent and they super dash, he has a frame 1 air invulnerable move that he can cancel into to stop them from just mindlessly. And this also, you know, he has it in the air as well. And so you can't just super dash at these characters just because they're Ki Blasting, because they have very strong cancel properties. You can also cancel into 2H when they super dash as well, but you want to be careful. So here I'll hold 5S, and you see, like, I try to 2H and it doesn't work, and the reason is because I'm shooting one too many Ki Blasts because I'm holding down the button, right? It's coming out too late. 2Hs are only frame 4 invulnerable, and so the invulnerability does not activate in time. And so what I would recommend if you're trying to bait your opponent into super dashing, I would recommend tapping. You can rapid ki blast by tapping instead of holding down the button. Holding down the button increases the chances of you shooting too many and not being able to cancel. But if I tap here, I actually get counter hit too. It'd be like that. Sometimes it's gonna happen. But you want to get into the habit of staggering your ki blasting. I don't know why I'm doing it that way. So yeah, you want to get in the habit of, you know, tapping ki blast instead of holding down the button, so that you're more ready. You have more time to cancel into that, and that especially goes for if you're trying to, you know, air special an opponent for super dashing as well, because obviously that's a big part of the game plan for characters like, you know, Vegeta. And also, you know, you've seen Team Gohan probably do this a lot too, where he goes up and somehow misses his right. Now you want to be careful with his for sure, because this is not invulnerable, so you have to be a little bit more you have to play with a little bit more restraint. But this is definitely something that's really strong in the neutral. For a character like him, you get huge damage off of that, and so don't overcommit on your ki blast. Okay, don't overcommit. Practice this. And practice your 2H combos too, because it's gonna matter. Okay. So, going along with the jailing thing, okay, there's actually a very, very important example I want to show to you guys. And so, I was talking about before how you can cancel your block stun into super dash or into reflect when ki blast make contact, as you can see. Now, this is really important because this situation comes up a lot. Before I said that you can't jail, you can't jail into vanish, right? Okay, now what I actually mean by that is ki blast, since they don't have true block stun, they have cancelable block stun, you can't jail out of ki blast. There's a difference between jailing into and jailing out of. So you can jail into a ki blast, but you cannot jail out of a ki blast. So for example, if you ki blast into vanish, that is you trying to jail out of ki blast into vanish, and so you cannot do that. But you can jail in to ki blast, and this is what leads the guard cancel reflect property to be one that is very dangerous in a lot of situations. So what do I mean by that? As you can see, if I try to do a string with a ki blast, he gets a reflect, and that's fine. But what if I don't commit to the full string? What if I do something like 5M into ki blast? What happens there? He cancels the block stun. He tries to cancel the block stun into reflect, but you notice he just whiffs reflect. Why is that the case? It's because since he's in block stun from my button before, and I'm canceling into ki blast, I'm actually jailing him into ki blast here. But since I don't press a button afterwards, the reflect is unsuccessful because he is reflected air. I have forced him to take all the block stun of the ki blast, and then he reflects afterwards, as you can see. And that is why this is a very, very important thing to notice in your strings. This will happen a lot with like characters like Bardock, right? He only has a single ki blast, and so him doing 5L into 5S, if you're mashing reflect, you just whiff. you just whiff and you get 2M'd, and it feels really bad. So be very careful about trying to defend against strings. Make sure you notice if your opponent is actually canceling into something after the ki blast or not, or else you will end up getting absolutely smoked for mashing that reflect. And that is something very, very important when we're talking about, you know, jailing ki blast. Okay, so we talked about guard cancels, the jailing properties. Okay, I think the last thing that I wanted to talk about was, gotta go to the character selection. I just figured I would make a note of this for you guys really quick, right? Not every character has a ki blast, like I said before, but not every character's 5S is a ki blast either. And so it can be really easy to assume that every character that has a 5S is ki blast property, but that's not the case. Characters like Gogeta, characters like S Broly, right? They have beams on normal buttons. So like if you press 5S with Gogeta, you get a beam property. It's not a ki blast. If you press 2S with S Broly, you get a beam. It's not a ki blast property. And so that's really important. True beams are going to go through every other type of ki blast, and so like if you try to ki blast for those characters, you will get absolutely cooked. And so be really careful be really careful about, you know, mindlessly, you know, throwing out those reflexes super dashes in neutral, because you never know what's coming up behind them. Ki blasts are a very important part of Dragon Ball Fighter's neutral. There are a ton of interactions with them. They also build a ton of meter as well. So one of the reasons that like 17 builds a ton of meter in his combos is because of this JS. It's a Ki blast string that he can add into combos. He can cancel into super dash and combo out of it. And so like he's able to build a ton of meter during combos. And you know, Ki blasts tend to build a lot of meter on just about every character. So if you can add Ki blast into your combo, you'll usually sacrifice damage but gain more meter. And so I figured I would make a note of that. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. There's a lot of weird Ki blasts out there as well. You know, Krillin has weird Ki blasts. You know, Piccolo has an orb. You know, and so make sure you take your characters to the lab and figure out how you can implement Ki blasts into your game. Figure out your cancel options. Figure out some strings to catch your opponent off guard for, you know, trying to cheat through your strings. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before I sign off, I do want to tell you guys I applied to be a coach on Metafy, but I need people to vouch for me in order to get onto the platform. So I'll leave the link down below. All you need to do is click the link. It'll have you like log in, and then you just vouch for me by writing a little statement or whatever. You can talk about how my videos are helpful. You can talk about you know, my analysis, anything like that helps. And then, you know, we'll get on Metafy and I'll be able to open formal coaching sessions for you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next training mode talk. I'm not sure what the topic is going to be, but I'll be sure to let you guys know once I figure it out. Till then, have a great day, guys. Later.